I received this very lovely Harry Potter Crochet Kit as a Christmas gift from my older sister. Shout out to Dada if you're watching this. And this kit contains 14 different magical projects that you can make. And if we turn it around, there's the different characters that you can make in the kit. You've got Harry, Hermione, Dobby, Hagrid, Snape, Dumbledore, and many other characters. So let's open this up and see what's included. This is the inside of the kit, and they provided a few different materials. The first thing here is the instruction manual for making the different characters. So in the contents, you can see there's different characters and some notes about the tools in the kit and different patterns for how to make each character. And they also provided a crochet hook. This one is a 3.5 millimeter hook. The one downside I found from this kit is they don't provide that much yarn. I think they have enough colors to make one character from the kit, but if you wanted to make the other 13 characters, then you would need to buy additional yarn. So that's all the yarn that they provided, and this box was just empty, so nothing special in here. And another component is this black sewing floss that they provided with some safety eyes as well. It's stuck onto the box, so you just have to rip it off. But you can see their safety eyes and a sewing needle, also black floss. And lastly, a bag of fiber fill for stuffing each of the Amigurumi characters. I went ahead and crocheted the Harry Potter doll from the pattern book, and I'll be showing you step by step on how to make this. And this video will be sectioned in a few different parts so that it's not too long. For the materials, you'll need the following tools from the kit: the 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, the pale peach yarn, the medium gray yarn, dark gray, black, brown, maroon, yellow, and white. You'll also need a pair of safety eyes, a stitch marker, a sewing needle and black embroidery floss, and lastly, fiber fill. To get started, we'll be making the head and body. Go ahead and unravel the pale peach yarn from the kit. I unraveled my yarn like this to avoid any tangles. So this is what it should look like. There's a few different ways to get started on the head. The first way is to create a slip knot. So I just crossed over the short end of the yarn, and I'm grabbing the long end of the yarn and putting it through this hole. And then you can pull on that strand inside and grab the two ends and pull up to tighten. So this is the first way to start the head. And when you create the slip knot, you can chain two. So here's the first chain, and here's the second chain. And then you can insert your crochet hook into the very first chain that we made and do 6 single crochets inside of that. The second way to start the head, and the way that I prefer, is to create a magic ring. So I'm wrapping the yarn around 2 fingers and turning my fingers over and using my ring finger to grab a hold of the yarn. Then I'll take my crochet hook, insert it underneath the strand on the right, and over to grab the strand on the left, and pull that underneath and scoop it up. Then we'll put our crochet hook underneath the strand in the back and pull through the loop on our hook. And I prefer this method over the slip knot as it's easier to close the hole at the end of our round. To begin, we'll do 6 single crochets inside of the magic ring. Insert your crochet hook in the circle. Then we're going to yarn over and bring that inside the circle, and yarn over, pull through 2. Repeat this for a total of 6 single crochets. After 6 single crochets, we'll tighten the circle by pulling on this loose end. To start round 2, we're going to work 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So instead of slip stitching, I'm going into that very first single crochet and working a single crochet into that stitch. And at this point, you can use a stitch marker to track the beginning of our round. Once you've marked your stitch, we're going to go back into that same stitch and make another single crochet. So insert your crochet hook into the same stitch we just worked a single crochet into and work a second single crochet. And that's called an increase, and we're going to work an increase in each stitch all the way around the circle. So an increase is just 2 single crochets inside of each stitch. At the end of the round, you should have a total of 12 stitches, including the stitch marker, so you can go ahead and count to make sure that you have the correct number. And to start round 3, we're going to remove the stitch marker and work 2 single crochets inside of the first stitch. After doing my first one, I'm going to place my stitch marker back in and work my second single crochet in that same stitch. And then we're going to single crochet in the next stitch. So we're just doing 1 single crochet in the next stitch, followed by 2 single crochets in the next stitch. So the pattern for this round is an increase followed by a single crochet all the way around. At the end of the round, you should have 18 stitches. To begin round 4, remove the stitch marker and work an increase inside of the first stitch. So that's the first one, and I'll work my second single crochet in that same stitch to make an increase. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So insert 1 single crochet in this next stitch, and in the following stitch, a single crochet. So the pattern for this round will be an increase followed by a single crochet in the next 2 stitches. At the end of the round, the stitch count should be 24 stitches, and to begin round 5, we'll remove the stitch marker and work a single crochet in the first stitch, insert the stitch marker, and we're going to continue working a single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So we won't be increasing in round 5, we'll just be working a single crochet in each stitch. At the end of round 5, the stitch count should still be 24, and we're going to repeat working a single crochet in each stitch for 6 more rounds. So we'll work up to round 11 in single crochets. At the end of round 11, the stitch count should still be 24, and to begin round 12, we're going to work a single crochet 2 together. So insert your crochet hook into that first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert your crochet hook in the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Insert your stitch marker back into the stitch, and that will be our single crochet 2 together. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So work 1 single crochet in this next stitch and a single crochet in the following stitch. And then we'll single crochet 2 together. And we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around. So we'll single crochet 2 together and then work a single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And you should be ending with a single crochet in the last 2 stitches. And at the end of this round, the stitch count should be 18. To begin round 13, we're going to work a single crochet 2 together, and work a single crochet in the next stitch. Single crochet 2 together, followed by a single crochet in the next stitch all the way around. In between steps 12 and 13, the instructions state to place the safety eyes on the back of the head. So you want to make sure the stitch marker or start of the round is facing the back. And from the last round we did, we're going to count down to the 9th round. And in between rounds 9 and 10, we're going to place the first safety eye. So that's in between the 9th and 10th round, and we can secure that with the stopper inside the project. And for the second safety eye, I'm going to place it 5 stitches apart from the first eye, so you can count around 5 stitches from the eye that we just placed, and insert the second safety eye in that 5th stitch, making sure that it lines up with the first eye. After securing the eyes, we can continue on with the pattern. For this next part, we're going to be switching to the medium gray. And from our last round, which was round 13, we're going to find the stitch that's in the front middle of our head. Right in between where the eyes are placed, we'll measure down and move the stitch marker 1 stitch before. So once you figured out the placement, insert your crochet hook back onto the loop. And we're going to switch to our medium gray yarn. And there's a couple of ways to do this. Since we don't need to use this color for a while, I'm going to slip stitch and fasten off the pale peach yarn, chain 1 and fasten off. Then we can cut off a small tail and pull the yarn through. And right where I made the slip stitch and fastened off, I'm going to insert my crochet hook back into that stitch. And we'll tuck that tail away inside of the head. And we're going to loop our medium gray yarn onto the crochet hook and pull that through the stitch, and then we'll chain 1. And you can tighten a knot or just pull tight to secure that gray yarn in place. For round 14, we're going to single crochet in each stitch around until we reach the orange stitch marker that we placed in the front of our head. I stopped single crocheting 1 stitch right before the stitch marker, and what we'll do now is switch to our white yarn. So in this next stitch, I'm going to work a regular single crochet, but instead of pulling through the 2 loops, I'm going to drop the gray yarn that I'm holding and loop on the white yarn onto our hook and pull that through the 2 gray loops. And with this white yarn, we're going to work a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So we can remove our stitch marker that we placed, and we're going to work a single crochet in the next stitch using our white yarn. An important thing to note is to carry the gray yarn with you as you work on the single crochets in the white. So I'll insert my crochet hook, making sure to carry both loops of yarn, and I'm working a single crochet in the white, and I'll work a single crochet in this next stitch, carrying both colors of yarn. And we'll do 1 more single crochet in white. So you should have 3 single crochets in white. And now we're going to change back to our gray. So start by working a regular single crochet, drop the white yarn, then we'll pick up the gray yarn and pull through the 2 loops. And we'll continue to carry the white and gray yarn and work a single crochet in the gray color until the end of the round. So I've made it all the way around round 14, and for this next round we're going to work a single crochet up until we reach those 3 white stitches again. So I'm just working my next round. So I'm working this next round in gray, and when I reach the center stitch of the 3 white stitches, I'm going to switch back to my white. So I'll work a regular single crochet in the first white stitch and use my white yarn to pull through the 2 gray loops. And now at the second white stitch, we're going to work a single crochet using the white yarn. And in my third white stitch, I'm going to switch back to the gray colored yarn. So you can drop the white, pick up the gray, and pull through the last 2 loops. And we don't need to work with the white yarn anymore, so you can snip off a shorter tail or just stuff the white inside of the head. And for the remainder of this round, we're going to work using our gray yarn, single crochets until the end of the round. And after you finish both parts of round 14, you should have 12 stitches in total. And to start round 15, we're going to work an increase in the first stitch. So I'll take my stitch marker and place it back in. And I'm going to go back into that same stitch and work another single crochet. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So the pattern for this round will be an increase followed by 3 single crochets all the way around. And at the end of the round, you should have 15 stitches. To start round 16, we're going to work an increase in the first stitch, followed by a single crochet in the next 4 stitches. Repeat this pattern all the way around. At the end of round 16, you should have 18 stitches, and at this point we can stuff our head. I like to do this part right before the hole gets smaller so that it's easier to properly stuff the inside. Once you've stuffed the head, we can continue on with the pattern. For the next 3 rounds, rounds 17 to 19, we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch all the way around. At the end of round 19, you should still have 18 stitches. For the next part, I'm going to sew circles around Harry's eyes to make the glasses. So I'm just pulling my yarn up so I don't lose my spot. And we'll take the black embroidery floss and untangle it. Thread the floss through the sewing needle. Insert the sewing needle inside the body and poke it out 1 to 2 stitches between the eye. So I'm starting with the left eye and pulling that out. And I'm going to pull this whole thing through, leaving a little bit of tail inside so it doesn't get undone. And I'm just tucking it in there. Because we need to make the glasses in a circular shape, I'm going to pick up 1 stitch at a time. Insert your sewing needle into 2 stitches to the left and a little underneath, and pull that floss through. And to make this seamless, I'm going to go underneath the area where the floss is sticking out and come out on the other side and pull the thread through. And we'll repeat these steps all the way around the outside of the eye to form Harry's glasses. And it is okay if they're not perfectly circular. This part was a little difficult. I had to go in and out a few times to make sure that all the corners of the glasses were fully covered. So it didn't completely look like circles, but that's okay. After finishing the glasses on one side, we can move our sewing needle up to the middle point. To form the bridge in between the glasses, I'm inserting my sewing needle in the middle of the head and pulling the needle out on the edge of the left glasses to form a line. And I'll do this one more time to connect another line. And then we can start the glasses on the right side. When you're ready to make the mouth, we can bring the sewing needle below the glasses. I'm inserting the sewing needle behind the strand of thread that's sticking out and pulling it through. And now I'm in the middle. So what I'll do is bring the sewing needle inside on the right side and pull it out. And this should form one half of Harry's smile. And we'll go back in with the sewing needle. Starting from this left point, and I'm going to pull it out right in the center of the first half of the smile to connect the lines. When you're satisfied with the way the mouth looks, we can move on to make the lightning bolt. With the same thread and sewing needle, I'm inserting the needle at the corner of the mouth and bringing it out to the top of the head, 1 to 2 stitches above the left glasses. And once our thread is up in this area, we can create the lightning bolt. This part is a little hard to narrate, so you can follow along how I insert the sewing needle and thread. And it did take a few times, so if you mess this part up, you can always cut the thread and start over. I formed the bottom part of the lightning scar, and I need to form the top. So I'm basically weaving in and out a few times until I get the thread to connect the bottom part of the lightning scar. So you can see that it's taking a little bit of time to figure out, but I eventually found a spot to pull out the sewing needle and form that zigzag shape. After making the lightning scar, I'm inserting my sewing needle back into the head and pulling it out from the back to hide and secure the thread. And you can do this 1 to 2 times to fully hide the thread and then snip it off. And if you squeeze the head a few times, it should disappear. For this next part, we're going to switch to the burgundy colored yarn to make the tie. Insert the sewing needle in the middle of the body, right below the white part that we made, and pull the yarn through, leaving a little bit inside. And we're going to make 3 vertical lines over that middle white part. So I'll insert my sewing needle into the top of that white section. And we'll pull it through on the bottom where I inserted the burgundy in the beginning. And it should create a line like this. And we're going to go over that line 2 to 3 times to create the tie. So I'm working my way from the top and pulling the thread through the bottom. We'll repeat this one more time. After making the tie, I'm going to insert the sewing needle to the back of the head to secure the yarn in place. Then we can snip off the burgundy yarn and squeeze the head to hide it. We'll take the yellow yarn next to create the diagonal stripe on the tie. For this part, I'm cutting off a small amount of yellow because we don't need that much to make the stripe. Inserting it into the sewing needle, and I'm going in from the inside to the top right corner of the tie and pulling all the way through until there's a little yarn remaining, and then I'm going to insert the sewing needle diagonally on the opposite side of the tie and pulling that through the inside, and this should create a singular stripe on top of the tie. And like we did with the previous strands of yarn, we're going to secure it in place by pulling the strand out in the back. After sewing on parts of the face and body, we're going to pick up where we left off by inserting our crochet hook and making the yarn tight around the hook. And before we begin round 20, we're going to change to the burgundy yarn. So first I'm going to remove the stitch marker and insert my crochet hook into that stitch. And we're going to work an unfinished single crochet and then loop the burgundy yarn onto our hook and pull through the 2 loops. We can tighten that yarn so that it's fully secured. And to start round 20, we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So I'm inserting my stitch marker back in and working a single crochet in each stitch. At the end of the round, you should have 18 stitches. And before we start round 21, we're going to switch to medium gray yarn. So first I'm working a single crochet in the stitch where I removed the stitch marker. I'll place the stitch marker back into that stitch. And in the next stitch, we're going to switch to the medium gray yarn. So I'll start by working a regular single crochet, drop the burgundy, and pick up the gray yarn, and pull that through the 2 loops on the hook. And if you did cut off the gray yarn instead of carrying it over, then you can reattach it on this round. So for round 21, we're going to work a single crochet all the way around, and I'm cutting off that burgundy so that it's not in the way anymore and we no longer need it, and continuing to work a single crochet. At the end of the round, you should still have 18 stitches, and before we begin round 22, we're going to switch to the dark gray yarn. So I'm picking up the dark gray yarn and pulling it through the 2 loops on my hook. So I changed colors right before I'm starting the new round. And now we can remove the stitch marker and we can snip off the medium gray yarn because we no longer need that. And for this round, we're going to work a back loop only single crochet in each stitch. To back loop only, we're going to insert our crochet hook into the loop in the back of that V. Insert the stitch marker back into that first stitch. And continue to work a back loop only single crochet all the way around. One thing I wanted to note about changing yarn colors is it doesn't matter if you change it at the end of the round or beginning of the round. As long as you change it in that area, then it should be good. At the end of the round, you should have 18 stitches, and at this point, we're going to stuff the rest of the body with fiber fill. So I'm first going to pull my hook up so I don't lose my yarn, and take the fiber fill to stuff the remainder of the body.